We're back. Keith and Towsif are here. We're talking the election, of course. BLS debate team coaches. As you can see, these guys know what they're doing when it comes to working an argument.
Yeah, some prep.
We're talking. We had a caller. We're talking about bringing up the. He brought up the race card, which I think is wrong and divisive. I think that Trump, from what we can tell, and again, he could turn out to be either very good or very bad, because you're right, Keith. You don't get a firm handle on exactly what he is, and that's frustrating. I think that that's, in his case, it's more obvious than most politicians who are just as bad, but they know how to couch it better. But you have, at least with him, there is a sense of an outline, and that outline is economic nationalism, national sovereignty, which means that we protect, preserve, protect, and defend American sovereignty and our borders, which is a value. It's a progressive value. And also better trade relations with other nations that benefit Americans.
That's tricky.
You get them by not doing a trade deal that gives, for example, communist China a huge deficit so they can dump products in America.
Hang on. Are you talking about the TPP? Because China's not included in the TPP,
no,
despite
I'm not
what Trump says to the contrary.
I'm not talking about no, I'm not talking about the TPP is another one which
agreed, it's another potential problem.
Has that NAFTA, the GATT agreement, which transfers the ability of Congress to regulate trade. It puts it into the hands of an international body of people who aren't even, we don't even know who they are. They can make trade. What kind of national sovereignty?
To be fair, I mean, I'm not going to argue too much free trade.
Well, he's come out against it.
I'm a huge fan of free trade.
Rock on. This is all you, buddy.
I think the main problem that this country has had in implementing free trade is like, first off, I don't think people are able to appreciate it, right? There's so many jobs in logistics, infrastructure, like supply chain. The jobs that have been created from free trade and the growth that we've gotten from it have like disproportionately gone to like the top 80%. So we haven't been able to redistribute those gains to help the people that are in like lower skilled fields.
Yeah, but the Trump is not for free trade, don't you see?
I know, and I think that's a problem. I don't think that's a good thing. No,
he's saying that we have to protect American. But he's actually pro-labor. You brought up unions. Yeah. It's actually a pro-labor position. First of all, to protect the country from illegal aliens who reduce the value of labor. Secondly, to protect American industry by penalizing companies who go offshore, which protects corporations, which protects labor. And he has said this very explicitly. And he understands it because he's in business.
When we do things like set tariffs, like things that will happen is prices will go up. The people that are hurt by that aren't rich people. They can afford whatever they want. But when you don't have access to cheaper goods from other countries, the people that are hurt are poorer people that will see their income go down.
It depends on the amount of tariff. Tariff
but if
policy
it's enough to be meaningful to prevent the benefits of being able to pay someone practically nothing or slave wages in China, if it's enough to make that difference significant, it kind of has to be enough to have the effect Towsif's talking about.
Well, it's a balance. I mean, look, tariff policy goes all the way back to the days of John Quincy Adams. I mean, this is, every election they debated tariffs. The only reason we don't debate them now is because we've turned over our ability to create tariffs to the WTO, which is,
in some instances.
It's mostly beneficial. Free trade is
generally
a good thing in my mind.
But he's standing for national sovereignty, which is really refreshing. I haven't heard a candidate do that since John F. Kennedy.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, who else? Yeah, well, Reagan did it somewhat. But he's saying that he's going to put the nation state first in our dealings with foreign nations, in our protection of our own people and their values, not only labor, but also American businesses.
Been doing that. I don't know.
And that is a progressive value.
Well,
it's something that we've forgotten about. Hillary Clinton wants to erase the borders.
No,
Bernie Sanders, he wants to hyper-nationalize the economy by giving everything away for free.
No, he doesn't.
That's a little.
Neither of those are accurate.
They're leaning. I'm not saying.
If we're going to crack down on caricatures of Trump, we need to crack down in the other direction if we're going to be fair.
And I agree that I'm being a little bit broad, but these are generally the themes that they stand for.
Let's for a moment talk about amnesty. Sure. A big argument people use against illegal immigration is that they lower the wages because they're not regulated by minimum wage, right? But if people were legal in this country, they would have minimum wage. They wouldn't be able to lower that price for it.
But can our economy sustain it?
We've had them for decades. And
then they should do it. But the point is it has to be done legally.
Sure, that's what
You can't just let people come in without knowing who they are
part of
and
the
what
issue
their
there is
intention
the way our immigration process works. It'll take you 10, 15, 20 years to get approved to immigrate here if you're coming from some parts of the world. And
we're all in agreement on this, and I think that Trump himself has said we want to have immigrants. We just want to make sure that we know what their intentions are. We want to have standards.
But
That's
saying they need to do it legally when there is no effective legal system that gives them that as a legitimate choice, like waiting 20 years when your kids are starving today, is not a legitimate choice.
Why would we assume that that's carved on the Ten Commandments?
Because
can't that be reformed?
I think the fact that there is nowhere near a comparable amount of focus on changing that issue means that we're not addressing it.
Yeah.
Right? The real problem with people coming in illegally, one of the major reasons there, is that if we put our effort into making the legal system comparatively easier than coming in illegally and less dangerous, people would do that.
Like, imagine if...
Well, I think that Trump, of all the candidates, is probably the most likely to move in that direction.
I don't think he's likely to increase immigration
No, I think
which is what is necessary to make that happen.
I think he probably, as a businessman, is, and I think he also...
Then why is he telling us the opposite?
He's not saying the opposite.
Really?
Listen to him. He is saying that he wants to have standards so that we don't have terrorists and criminals coming across the border without knowing who they are.
Which are what we have, especially when it comes to refugees.
No, we don't have it.
For refugees, we sure as heck do.
The
we have 2.5 years in vetting before everyone gets close to being here.
FBI Director James Comey has said, and this is Obama's FBI, that we have no way of knowing, for example, with regards to Syrian refugees, which ones may be involved with ISIS.
Well, yeah,
this is Obama's FBI director.
I can't open up someone's brain and know their beliefs.
So there I have it.
But if that's our standard, it's unbelievably high.
It should be our standard.
It's unreasonably high and impossible.
You're on the air with us. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I have a comment, and my comment goes like this. If Donald Trump does get elected to be the next United States president, he's just going to tear this country apart, because this man has no sense of politics whatsoever. He doesn't know what it's like to lead a state, let alone a country for that matter, that the Western world looks to us for guidance, leadership, and initiative. And if he does get elected, he's going to make the Western country around the world is going to look at us and say, man, what the hell were these American people thinking electing this asshole?
Look, I mean, that's remains to be seen. I think that Trump is going to bring up a degree of respect for this country.
Really?
Look at what Hillary Clinton did as Secretary of State. By supporting the so-called Arab Spring, you have 3 destabilized, failed states now. You've got millions of refugees.
You're saying the Arab Spring was Hillary Clinton's fault?
She is apparently, according to these emails that I've read, very much for that. She was arranged for the destabilization and ultimately, which led to the assassination of the bad guy, Muammar Gaddafi. What happened? Besides Benghazi, you have another failed state. You have more people fleeing out. We now have millions of refugees fleeing these countries that have fallen apart.
And you're claiming all of that is Clinton's decision. Libya, I'll give you. I disagree with her decision there. That's partially why I'm not a big supporter of her.
The leadership of her office was one by which we did not stand by our allies, and the result was a collapse of these countries.
Right. I'm going to comment on that.
Go ahead. This is all you.
The Arab Spring kind of killed my idealism. I was like a little more idealist before that.
But
the person who I think, and this is something that I disagree with Obama on, even though I like him a lot, is that a lot of the decisions that were made into overthrowing these dictators and supporting these mass movements were more on Obama's part. If you read the Hillary doctrine or the Obama doctrine, a lot of the counterpoints. Hillary was for more troop mobilization and stabilizing dictators. She is a real
she's more hawkish.
She's a hawkish, practical, pragmatic. Neoconservatives would do well to vote for her.
Hillary is
she's almost like Bush.
Yeah.
Honestly, same sort of flip side of the same coin.
She would have backed those dictators.
She presided over, though, it makes Jimmy Carter look like Winston Churchill.
But we were recovering from this disaster of U.S. the world after Bush did not like us, and we are a lot more respected.
No, I don't think so.
During Hillary Clinton's.
Do you think Putin respects us more? I mean,
hang on. If we're deciding whether or not what we're doing is good based on whether the dictator of Russia likes us, we're using the wrong standard.
It's not a matter of like, it's a matter of respect.
Well, hang on.
China is building these artificial islands in the Spratlys. Yeah. That's because they perceive that we're weak. And by the way, Hillary Clinton's rumors that Hillary Clinton's emails have a lot to do with that.
Rumors I'll care about when they're substantiated.
They hacked into her private server and they saw in advance that they could invade Crimea and we wouldn't do anything about it.
I would love to see actual evidence rather than supposition of that, because that's a massively huge claim. And it's also
according to Putin.
So
he says that he's going to has a batch of her emails that they had read in advance because they hacked into her private server. And she was sending out information which indicated...
Why do we suddenly decide Putin is the arbiter of what is good and true in the world?
That
seems like an odd choice.
No, he's not good and true, but the point is that...
here it seems to be.
No, I'm saying that if you have a strong American government and leader, they respect that. They respect power.
This is the argument of peace through strength, right?
Exactly.
So
they sense that we're weak, so they then know they could go to Crimea without having any repercussions.
I think
he respects
the
power.
Crimea decision is different.
Yeah.
Let's set that to one side for a bit.
China.
And I think both the way that you deal with China and the way that you deal with Russia are both very different.
Yeah.
Culturally speaking, what they expect, also very different.
Tested another
what
nuclear
they expect
device.
and the way in which we need to interact with them is very different. I think that you have a solid point in terms of the whole culture of the strong man kind of concept in Russian politics. There's a legitimate argument there. Well, no, there actually like that is a trope that sort of exists in Russian politics, and I can buy into that. And I can support politics. More so there. I can buy into that, and I can support that. The issue is that that same approach is not necessarily something that works well in other places, and it's not something that brings allies on board.
Like
okay, let me put it like this.
You have to have an American
like
president that stands up and says, our system is superior. And that we're going to stand up for our values. People are going to like us more
because we tell them they're inferior to us?
Stop Russia
that makes
from
no
pushing
sense
in.
whatsoever.
FDR did it. That's how he defeated Nazi Germany.
Reagan did it. Reagan I thought that was like a lot of weapons.
It's more than weapons.
He
took the moral and psychological advantage. He said, our system is superior to the Nazi system. Reagan did it with the Soviet Union. He said, you are the evil empire. And Lincoln did it to the Southern Confederacy.
Isn't that what Clinton would have done with regards to Libya, and you're critiquing that now?
No. They've been very wishy-washy and weak about the American exceptionalism.
The exact opposite of that they weren't wishy-washy, that it's all their fault, that they went in and overthrew
There was a really compelling piece called the Hillary Doctrine.
They were supporting the overthrow of our allies.
Hang on.
The people that support Clinton a lot, the people she has a lot of support from, is the military establishment. Because whenever they want more troops, she is always backing them. She got into fights with Obama.
I don't think that's necessarily a good idea either.
But that's how if you don't assert your true presence. You don't have to send an army all
over the world in order to resolve.
But then how do you do it? Yeah. If we don't have power in regions, then they'll push in.
So being someone who can push people around.
Ronald Reagan wasn't pushing troops around the world. He did it once.
He escalated military spending.
Yeah,
he did military. Oh yeah, but he wasn't intervening in other countries except the one example, which was a disaster, and that was Lebanon. Well, that was nothing. I'm talking about a major. That was like a one day. He sent a few paratroops. I'm talking about a major intervention. He had none of that during his presidency.
But Kennedy did. FDR
Eisenhower didn't either.
Eisenhower's one of my favorite presidents.
Set Ike aside, because I think he's very much the model. He's a very different kind of model than most of what we're dealing with.
But the other two examples, JFK and FDR.
Trump is very much like an Eisenhower.
I think you are absolutely wrong in 1,000.
I disagree with that. I really like Eisenhower, and I do not feel the same way about Trump.
Man.
He's one of my favorite.
But he also knew that he expressed American exceptionalism.
I think that the idea that if we
people loved him for it all over the world.
There's a big difference here. I think that's the narrative we told ourselves. I don't know if that's the narrative that was true.
Oh, he was
also, when at that point, that was right after we had helped save a bunch of people in World War II. So I think we were kind of riding high on that more than telling people we were better than them and therefore they liked us for it.
It's not a matter of better than them.
The way that you've just presented it
I don't
seems
mean.
to line up that way.
Let me be more specific.
Okay, please.
This isn't a chauvinistic thing, like somehow we're better people. This is a statement, and this has been traditional to America, going back to Washington, that for whatever reason we have embraced a series of ideas and principles that are better. And that's not, and that they're universal principles. They're available to any people.
Are we better than the British?
In many ways, I think we are. Yeah, we
don't have. They don't have
a constitution.
So they don't have democracy or freedom or any of that good stuff.
Even in Canada,
I feel like
even in Canada, you could go and search and seize. I mean, they don't have.
Well, someone who tried to do that,
and it's against the Constitution.
George Bush did that a lot.
Yeah.
He talked about let's go into Iraq and build a democracy, but it didn't
Trump's
work.
very against that, and I agree with that.
No, but the approach you're talking about, which is asserting America is best. Look at what we do. You should do that.
You can't
is
do
exactly
that
what
without
GW
military
did.
intervention.
It doesn't mean you have to go in and start marching around with boots on the ground.
People won't respect your ability to use military force if you aren't willing to use it.
You use it tactically, very carefully. You don't.
But that's what Obama is doing.
Yeah,
he's using spec ops.
And I agree. But the problem is that his psychological position has not been to respect America's exceptionalism. He was asked about this in Europe. He was in Belgium at the time. What do you think of American exceptionalism? And his answer was...
Different countries all think they're exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, but the point is he didn't have any understanding of what it is that makes us exceptional.
I firmly
And
disagree
that
with
was
that.
a
I think he
major
decided that it
departure.
was diplomatically beneficial to
And it
not
wasn't.
insult the country he was in.
It's not insulting. It's
To
saying,
say
hey,
why you
saying,
think your
we
system, you are better
you
than
should
them?
be proud of that. Have no reason to say
I think there's a
we are the exceptional nation because we rule. We're self-ruled. We have a constitution. We're not telling
are
them what
a lot
to
of
do.
other countries.
Not to the level we have it.
Really?
Name one. Andorra.
Canada.
Canada doesn't have a constitution. You could go
They've
to
had a lot of
Canada.
like
benefits,
official.
are they able
Not-
to
they
enjoy
do
almost all the
not-
benefits?
Look,
the same
they're
way
almost
we
like
are?
the United States, I agree, but they still don't quite have the freedoms we have.
I think that
You
you're identifying differences
there's
that are
different
largely
values.
meaningless.
In Canada, you can arrest somebody if you don't like their speech and put them in jail.
In the U.S., if you are a U.S. citizen, you could be assassinated via drone without a trial.
Not inside the United States.
Oh, there's the saving grace.
That's a war.
There's a question of whether or not we have a
And
right
there's,
to privacy.
and there's a question about whether or not a president can conduct a war without Congress. But in a
all of
war,
that
people
still
get bombed.
happens in the U.S. I think to claim that the U.S. is, without question, the best at everything ever is to
I
blind
didn't say
ourselves.
we're the best at everything. I said that our
That's the
idea.
implication
no,
of
I'm
saying
saying it's
that our
not
system's
even
inherently
implied.
superior.
The ideas and principles that we've embraced are better, and that they're available to everyone.
But
they're
some
the
of those ideas and
Judeo-Christian
principles-
moral principles.
Oh,
yes,
there we're
yes,
gonna
we
get
are.
into stuff.
And they are the constitutional Greco-Roman principles that developed our Constitution.
Not the parts of Greece and Rome that we don't like, though, like the
No, the good
slavery
parts.
and
I
the
think-
all that stuff.
this
I
country
think
got
Trump
rid
is
of, that's
caught
not
in
an
a-
argument. We got rid of slavery.
Trump is caught in a
Took a
bind.
while.
Like, you cannot say
That's
that we
old.
are going to be a country that is exceptional and will spread that exceptionalism without duly committing yourself to using military force.
We don't have to spread the exceptionalism.
But
just
then-
by identifying it, it's an inspiration to the world.
But inspiration only goes
That's why
so
after World
far,
War II,
like-
the world looked to us.
But
and
then you would
thought
support the
we would-
Arab Spring, which you
thought,
just-
No, I would not. But they thought we would liberate them from communism, which we didn't do. But even by example, we were saying, look, our system is superior to communism. Communism is going to enslave you. We offer a better example. We were the hope of the world.
If I understand right, your argument is coming down to if we tell people we believe we're awesome, they will like us more and listen to us more.
Yes. That's what it comes down
People
to.
I
won't
have met
act on
very
that.
few
Yeah.
people with
And if
for whom
we-
that's
and
the
if-
case.
and
Usually
if
when
we
someone
don't-
comes to me and
if
says,
we don't-
I believe I'm awesome and what I do is better than you,
yeah, but
listen to
if we
me,
don't,
I don't.
yeah, but you have to make the case. And if we don't make that case, then we're going to be weaker in the world.
Well, I think there's a difference
That's
between
why
making the case and asserting
FDR
it. Making the
defeated
case
the
is very-
Nazis. It wasn't just the bombs.
the more we
it
make
wasn't
that
just the
case-
guns. He defeated them because he was clearly defining the nature of their philosophy versus ours.
If we make
George
that
Bush
case-
did it with after 9/11 for a while. He was like, look, our system, we're going to fight this evil system, and we're going to align ourselves with others who want to fight as well. But our system is better than what they represent.
If we
and
make,
it
how'd that
is.
work
if we
out?
make that case,
It actually worked. We haven't
and
had
we
a
don't
terrorist
act.
incident since in this country.
But if we make that
Post
case
hoc
and don't
ergo
act,
propter hoc
other
fallacy.
countries will
It could
lose.
have been, it's easy to
Or
say
you're
how
Towsif, he's got
it's
stuff
easy
to
to
say.
say how
Like,
did it work out because we don't know what would have happened if that hadn't happened.
Sure, counterfactuals are hard to
Exactly.
figure out. But
Right.
if we make that case and don't act on it, countries lose faith. If we make that case and act on it, then we are getting more engaged, we are getting more tied down.
Not necessarily. We could act upon it on a very tactical way. Like, for example,
But that is
we could have
Obama.
we
That-
could
that's
have-
why I
exactly
like
what
him.
Obama is
That is
doing.
what he's doing.
I don't
think so.
like all of the things
I-
he's
yeah,
doing
I think
there,
he should
but
engage
I
a
think
little
but I
more,
don't
but-
think his
this
choice-
is the measured
I don't
approach
think
that
his-
you want
I don't
without
think his
the
choices have
the
been so
bravado
good.
that you're looking for.
I think he should have committed
It's not
more
bravado,
earlier.
and
but-
I don't think he has really been proactive in terms of defending
More
American values.
the
around
degree
the
of
world.
He
drone
gave like
strikes
a
done?
he gave
I
a
don't
speech
agree,
in
but-
Egypt during the Arab Spring, talking about how we can like create these values as a result of these protests. But it didn't work out. Just
Yeah, and
the
plus
systems collapsed.
he behind the scenes supported the Muslim Brotherhood government there.
He supported
He
the
supported
rebels.
the democratic elections
But
that
that
happened to
produced
choose
the
And then,
Muslim
and then
Brotherhood.
he, and yeah,
Well,
and
that's the
then,
nature of
and then he
democracy. If you-
supported that government, and then when they left, he cut off military aid.
Yeah.
Okay.
One second.
Yeah.
Can we the issue there? I got to follow on this real briefly, and that's that you can't say we support democracy, but then
Not
when
reinforce
the
it.
people use democracy to choose somebody you don't like, cut all ties with them. Supporting democracy means accepting the choice that people might make when it's not the choice you want.
Who's talking about democracy?
The situation in Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood is
yeah,
exactly
but the point
that
is,
instance.
once he was elected, he started to move toward dictatorial powers.
Yes,
Just
and
like,
no.
just
There's
like,
a larger
that's
question.
just
But
like,
that's not,
that's
that
like
wasn't the impetus for moving away.
some
I'm sorry, you were
communist-
trying to break earlier. I didn't mean
No,
to
it's
cut you
like
there.
the way some communist regimes have worked. Once they're in power, they might be
The way a lot
elected.
of places
Then they
work.
start to consolidate, like Allende was doing. They start to consolidate dictatorial, totalitarian power. Hamas did this in Gaza.
I would argue that most governments that take power, in any case, tend to consolidate that power,
Yeah.
regardless
I think
well,
that
of
has
their
more to do with,
ideology.
it's a
like,
matter of degrees.
the nature of norms and institutions.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, guys, we're reaching toward the end of the program.
Oh,
It's
we
been
are?
pretty vigorous.
Oh, wow.
It just flew by.
It
Yeah,
really
that's
does.
pretty fast.
So
Have to come back.
to just recap, we have the election coming up. We still have 3 candidates standing.
Yep.
I think it would be such an interesting race if they push her aside and we have a capitalist versus a communist. To me,
Not
what my way of
communists and
thinking,
socialists are
Socialists.
different. Don't conflict.
well, communism is socialism in a hurry. But the point is,
Democratic socialism, not.
Democrat, my foot.
Norway
would
is not
have-
the same as the USSR.
Not any longer because Norway's moving in our direction. They've just privatized Social Security. All right,
You
but
get
the
the
point,
point I'm making.
I get the point, but these are matters of degree. I mean,
but those degrees
Trump
matter.
is not necessarily a pro-capitalist either.
He's not a fascist either, entirely.
Oh,
Well,
my
he's
God.
not that
Separate
far
debate.
left. But
It's all very
you know,
separate
I mean,
debate.
I think the fascist would be somebody who's a little bit more
No, that'd
into
be the reactionary, sweeps around. The circle eventually comes together. at the end.
fascism is leftist, and it's not as leftist as communism. Hitler was a leftist, but he wasn't as leftist as Stalin. But they were
we'll
both
expand
way
this when we
to
have
the-
more time. 'Cause
We don't
I
have a lot of time,
vigorously
but they were
disagree.
way to the left of America, both
vigorously.
of them. I mean, that we
Left
did
and right
not have.
becomes subjective when you get
It's
to the
not
extremes. 'Cause
subjective.
No,
You
it's
can-
the radical and
it's a-
reactionary end up functionally becoming the same
Trying
thing.
to
in a lot of
define
ways,
Hitler's
but yeah,
ideology,
That's not going to get us anywhere.
Fascism was a reaction to communism, but they were still leftist. They were the third way. You have to study Mussolini to know this.
Again, we don't have the time. We'll set
We
this
don't have
aside
the
for
time.
now.
We'll do another show on it.
Sure.
I've written a few books on it.
That'd be fun.
By the way, I should mention my new book is coming out.
Oh, nice.
Communism is Not Dead, available at Amazon and Amazon Kindle.
All right.
What the heck? I might as well get in a plug. My books, my books, my books. Guys, what are you up to? We have 2 more minutes left. Debate
first.
this summer. It's
Yeah, I
debate
gotta
camp.
set up, figure out what's going on next year. I'm finishing my internship, moving out to a new apartment, so my life's shifting. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Keith, you're doing a debate camp this
Yeah,
summer at
no, I'll
Boston
be
College.
teaching at a couple of those, wrapping up a lot of other things. This year's actually been, I'd like to take a minute or two to talk about Bielison's debate team, because this
Right.
year has been really
Seemed pretty
successful.
good.
The kids have done some
Yeah, yeah.
amazing things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've
it's
seen that.
the first year that we've really been nationally competitive, which has been awesome. But more important than that, we've managed to bring a lot of new kids into the activity who haven't done it before, who are getting the chance to learn more about it. And I absolutely love the group of kids we have. I couldn't ask for better.
And you did some great issues this year. And
Yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
that's great about debate is you have to look at both sides of an
No,
issue.
absolutely.
You can't be indoctrinated.
No.
Well, because you have the other guys firing away,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you'll lose half your rounds
Punching
if you
holes.
live on one side. So yeah.
poaching holes in the ideology,
Yeah.
right?
And it's been really good times. It's been amazing to help, and Towsif and I have
Just
both been
seeing
there
the
to see a lot
progress.
of it. Also, a shout out to Amelie Baker, who has been our faculty advisor and coach for years and years, and
Caroline.
Yeah, well, Caroline's new, but
Who's going to be,
Amelie's
yeah,
leaving.
she's been
but-
around for a while, and
Yeah.
she's going to be having a bigger role next year.
Well,
It's
maybe
gonna be
next time we'll bring them in too.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I could
That'd be
bring in
wonderful.
one of my old debate friends. He would love this.
Yeah, we could
Alon.
really,
Oh,
we could really mix it up with them.
Calling one of my old partners, we'll throw
Oh,
down. That'd
man.
be great.
Yeah,
that'd be something.
things get very competitive. over there.
Yeah, a little bit.